TV. Parliament ikupitirizabe zakafukufuku wandege yomwe inachitika ku Chikangawa, ndipo nthawi ino yemwe adali mkulu wa asilikali Valentino Phiri iwo ndi omwe akufusidwa mafuso lero.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of the ad hoc committee, I respectfully submit this written statement in response to the summons issued by the Clerk of Parliament on 15th June 2026, pursuant to Section 60, Subpara 3 of the Constitution of the Republic of Malawi and Section 9 of the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act. The summons require me, in my capacity as former Chief of the Defence Force, to provide information regarding the role played by myself and the Malawi Defence Force in the planning and preparation of the flight undertaken by the late Vice President of the Republic of Malawi, the Right Honorable Dr. Saulos Klaus Chilima, on 10th June 2024. Specifically, the committee has requested information relating to travel arrangements, passenger coordination, communications with government institutions, and approved prior to the utilization of Mita aircraft Malawi Air Force Tango 03. Honorable Chair, I want to actually comment on the summons, specifically on the items that I have to respond to. I will not talk about passenger coordination because that is not done, was not done by my office. It was being done by other people who were responsible for such an activity. I might maybe gloss through, but it will not be a detailed presentation, as it was not part of what I was doing as commander or the chief of the Defence Force. Accordingly, I hereby submit the following account of events based on my direct involvement and official records available to me during my tenure as the chief of the Defence Force. I want to start first by looking at the aspect or parameter of request for Mita air transport. On Saturday, 9 June 2024, at approximately 1500 hours or thereabout, I received a telephone call from Dr. Alake Sikwese, who was then serving as Principal Secretary to the late Vice President. Dr. Sikwese was calling from Chileka International Airport and requested the availability of a military aircraft to transport the late Vice President from Lilongwe to Mzuzu on Monday, 10 June 2024, to attend the funeral of the late Honorable Ralph Kasambala. I informed Dr. Sikwese that at that time, the only available military aircraft, Malawi Air Force Tango 03, had already been committed to support transportation arrangements for the funeral of the late Honorable Kasambala, and was at the time already in Mzuzu. Dr. Sikwese subsequently inquired whether the same aircraft could be utilized by the Vice President without disrupting the funeral-related itinerary, noting that the Vice President intended to return to Lilongwe on the same day in order to perform official duties, including seeing off the President of the Republic of Malawi, the then former President of the Republic of Malawi, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, who was scheduled to depart for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in the Bahamas. Recognizing the significance of the request and the need for proper authorization, I informed Dr. Sikwese that I would undertake the necessary consultations before providing a definite response. However, I indicated to the Principal Secretary that the Vice President's itinerary appeared operationally tight, particularly considering the planned return to Lilongwe in connection with the then President's subsequent travel program scheduled for later on 10 June 2024. Consultations and approvals. Following the request, I immediately consulted Brigadier General Robre Ishmael, as he was then the commander of the Malawi Air Force, to determine the operational feasibility of accommodating the Vice President's travel requirements using the Malawi Air Force Tango 003. Brigadier General Ishmael then, now a Major General and retired, advised that the proposed arrangement was operationally feasible. In this regard, I relied, that is, on the professional assessment, certifications, and operational recommendations of the competent Air Force Command and technical personnel responsible for aviation operations. Thereafter, I consulted the then Minister of Defense, Honorable Mkandawire, who indicated that he would engage the President of the Republic regarding the request. Why was I consulting Honorable Harry Mkandawire? Previously, during the day, we had a discussion comprising or consisting the activities or maybe the status of the late Honorable Kasambala. And during the discussion, he had mentioned that he had been designated to represent the former head of state at the time. Why I was consulting him again was that he was the Minister of Defense, and it was important that he also had to have a clear understanding of what was going to obtain at that particular material time. Subsequently, I personally communicated with the former head of state, or the former president, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, then Commander-in-Chief of the Malawi Defense Force, and informing him of the Vice President's intention to travel to Mzuzu for the funeral of the late Honorable Kasambala, SC. The President advised that he had not been aware that the Vice President had already returned from his official visit to the Republic of Korea. Nevertheless, he granted the Vice President authority to utilize the military aircraft should he wish to attend the funeral. The former President further indicated that he had originally designated the Minister of Defense to represent him at the funeral. However, should the Vice President attend, he would adequately represent the Presidency at the event. The consultations, I must mention, took place between 15 and 1645 hours. Then at about 1800 hours, I informed Dr. Sikwese that the Vice President was authorized to utilize the aircraft, subject to coordination with the family of the late Honorable Kasambala SC to ensure that their travel arrangements were not adversely affected. Given the urgency of the request and the intended trip, the verbal request was accepted, but I further requested that a formal requisition be submitted in accordance with established procedures governing the use of military aircraft. What did I mean by this? It meant the office providing all the documentation that required to provide enough information for the MDF Air Force to expedite the intended operation of transporting the late Vice President and his entourage to Nkata Bay and back to Lilongwe. In addition, I instructed the commander of the Air Force to ensure that the aircraft was positioned appropriately to support the Vice President's travel requirements on 10 June 2024. This, I further and subsequently updated both the Minister of Defense and the then Commander-in-Chief on the arrangements that had been made so far. Flight operations on the 10th of June 2024. On Monday, 10th June 2024, I received confirmation that Malawi Air Force Tango 03 was in Mzuzu and was scheduled to depart Mzuzu Airport for Kamzu International Airport at 0704 hours with an estimated arrival time of 0752 hours. The aircraft carried 3 crew members, and namely Colonel Owen Sambalopa as the pilot in command, Major Florence Seremani as a co-pilot, and Major Wells Aidini as an aircraft engineer/technician. I was later informed that following arrival in Lilongwe, the aircraft was refueled with sufficient fuel for approximately 4 hours of flight operations and was preparing to return to Mzuzu carrying 6 passengers, namely former First Lady Madam Shanil Patricia Dzimbiri, Mr. Lucas Kapeni, Mr. Chisomo Chimaneni, Mr. Dan Kanyemba, Mr. Abdul Lapken, including the late Vice President, Right Honorable Dr. Saulos Klaus Chilima. This was in addition to the 3 crew members. The scheduled departure from Kamzu International Airport was 0916 hours with an estimated arrival in Mzuzu at approximately 10:002 hours. Initial report of loss of contact. In the morning of 10th June 2024, while attending a meeting at the Defense Force headquarters with executives from the Lilongwe Handling Company, Lihago, which included the Air Force Commander, I observed at some point that the Air Force Commander left the meeting to answer what seemed to be an urgent call. Upon his return, he requested a private audience with me in my office. During that meeting, he informed me that the aircraft, Malawi Air Force Tango 03, which was ferrying the Vice President and his delegation to Mzuzu, had not landed as per the expected time of arrival. The then Air Force Commander requested permission to proceed immediately to the Air Force headquarters in order for him to coordinate the follow-up actions. Permission was granted without delay. As he was leaving, I directed that the Air Force Commander, I directed the then Air Force Commander that once contact had been re-established, the aircraft should fly back to Kamuzu International Airport. And I want to quote, should they re-establish contact, then the aircraft should be directed to fly back to Kamuzu International Airport. I hope I was not speaking to the aircraft. I was speaking to the Air Force Commander that should he re-establish contact, he must be able to do that. I then proceeded to convene a meeting of the Malawi Defense Force High Command at the Joint Force Headquarters in order to inform them about the development. High Command comprises 3 people. I was then the commander or the chief of the defense. I had with me, within the High Command, then Lieutenant General George Jaffu, now the chief of the Defense Force, and the Chief of Staff, General Seiford Kalisha. briefing of the then Commander-in-Chief on the events. At approximately 10:35 hours, I contacted His Excellency the President and Commander-in-Chief to inform him that the Malawi Air Force aircraft Tango 03 carrying the Vice President and other passengers had failed to arrive at its intended destination and that contact with the aircraft had been lost. Therefore, I promptly informed the then President of the Republic of Malawi, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, of the situation. I also requested an audience to provide a comprehensive briefing at the same time. The President granted the request, and I went ahead to brief him accordingly at the State House. Following the briefing, the President directed that further coordination be undertaken with the then Secretary to the President and Cabinet to facilitate a whole of government response to the emerging situation. The former President further directed that he be kept continuously updated regarding the progress of the search and response operations. This briefing took place from 10:45 to 1100 hours. Second meeting with the then Commander-in-Chief. At the direction of the then Commander-in-Chief, a second meeting was convened at the State House, attended by the then Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Ms. Colleen Zamba, the former Inspector General, Ms. Melin Yolam, the former Director General of National Intelligence Service, NIS, Mr. Dokani Ngwira, the former Chief of Staff, State Residences, Mr. Prince Kapondangaga, Presidential Aide, Mr. Sean Kampondeni, and myself. The meeting was chaired by the former President, and it took place sometime between 1200 hours to slightly about 1300 hours. At the meeting, it was decided that the Office of the President and Cabinet should request mobile telecommunication service providers to assist in locating the mobile devices of the passengers believed to have been on board the aircraft. Accordingly, details of the phone numbers of all the passengers and crew were collected for purposes of tracing possibility of a signal or location of the aircraft. The former President also instructed that the public be informed of developments through appropriate official channels. Consequently, I coordinated closely with the then Minister of Information, Honorable Moses Nkulu. Given that the aircraft belonged to the Malawi Defense Force, it was agreed that the information would be communicated jointly and transparently to the public. Throughout this difficult period, in this regard, we jointly provided continuous updates to the public in coordination with the Minister of Information in the interest of national coordination and public reassurance. Progress report from the Malawi Air Force. Later in the day, the Air Force commander gave me an update that the air traffic control at Mzuzu Airport had reported establishing communication with the aircraft Malawi Air Force Tango 03 when the aircraft was approximately 20 nautical miles north of Mzuzu at or around 10-12 hours. However, despite this communication, the aircraft had not landed at Mzuzu Airport as expected, and its whereabouts were unknown. This was an update from the Air Force commander. Search and rescue operations. I would say the search and rescue operations can be divided or should be divided into two. The first one was preliminary and was much more finding out from the activities that we were obtaining, so that the aircraft maybe could be located, tracked, or traced. And the other one was actually the physical search. And I want to start with the preliminary one. So the search and rescue operations went on as follows. Upon being informed that the aircraft remained unaccounted for, I directed the commander of the Air Force to reestablish whether the aircraft had diverted to any alternative destination. Contact was made with airports and aviation authorities in alternative destinations. Contact was made with airports and aviation authorities in Malawi, including Likoma, Karonga, and neighboring countries, particularly Mbeya in Tanzania, Chipata and Lusaka in Zambia, and Richinga in Mozambique. The Air Force commander was also instructed to engage with regional airlines operating in the area, including Ethiopian Airlines and Kenya Airways, to ascertain whether any communications or sightings of the aircraft had been reported. The airports contacted reported no record of the aircraft landing or of establishing contact. Similarly, the airlines consulted reported neither communication with nor sighting of the Malawi Air Force Tango 03 aircraft. However, at some point, telecommunications providers, specifically Airtel, subsequently advised that a signal from one of the mobile phones on board had been detected by a cellular tower in the Chikangawa area at about 13:15 hours, suggesting the aircraft could be located within approximately the radius of 20 kilometers of the tower. There was a complication in the understanding of this information. If you go to Chikangawa, there are two towers. There's a tower that is within the locality or vicinity of Reply, and there's another tower that is at close to Chikangawa forestry headquarters. This was actually investigated. Then the understanding was that both towers maybe could belong to either of the mobile service operating companies. Deployment of ground search teams. Following this development, immediate operation orders were issued directing troops from 101 Brigade in Mzuzu to conduct coordinated ground search and rescue operations within the indicated areas, together with the Malawi Police Service and other first responders. And I want to actually emphasize those responsible for the search and requested to conduct the search were the Malawi Defense Force and its troops and the police. It is actually also important to know other interested parties joined the search. I should be very clear with this. I was not responsible for these people that came to join the search. Administratively, yes, they could contribute, but they were not under my control. They could contribute, but I would only take if at all they contributed anything that was substantial and valuable to the Defense Force and the police. My concentration was on the police and the MDF. Those that actually joined, they joined, yes, they could contribute, but not under our command and my command. The mission was placed under the command of Brigadier General Richard Chakonapanja, the then commander of 101 Brigade Headquarters in Mzuzu, or headquartered in Mzuzu. The search effort comprised personnel drawn from the Malawi Air Force, 3rd Battalion of the Malawi Rifles, and troops already deployed in the Chikangawa Forest Reserve under Operation Tetezo Nkhalango. The Malawi Police Service and other emergency responders also joined the operation. Police operations were coordinated at the time by the Northern Region Commissioner of Police, then Regional Commissioner Mr. Richard Ruhanga, now the Inspector General of Police. I want to also emphasize the point that you will note that I'm including searchers being drawn from the Malawi Air Force. This was a team that came all the way from where the aircraft was originating from, that was in Zomba. Based on their expertise on the operations of the aircraft and its characteristics, it was very important that they actually have presence in the area to be able to assist in the location of the aircraft. At some point later in the evening, Mr. Sean Kampondeni called me and asked me if the report that I had ordered the search to be discontinued was true. It was a surprise to me. I straightforwardly answered that it was not true, as our soldiers were not given such orders. By approximately 1600 hours on 10th June 2024, teams had been mobilized and commenced operations in the designated search area. The search mostly comprised the military and the police teams and commenced from 2 locations, namely Kasitu Camp and the Reply Aerodrome. Regional support. Recognizing the agency and complexity of the operation, the Malawi Defense Force sought support from neighboring countries. This was in regard to the fact that the MDF at the time did not have serviceable air platforms which could have assisted with the search and rescue operations. I want to actually expand the scope on the terminology air platforms. Air platforms could be aircraft and also unmanned airborne vehicles in the form of drones. At the time, MDF did not have any helicopter that was operational and also a drone operational at the time. All the drones at that time were not available. In this regard, I directed the Air Force commander to engage his Zambian counterpart based on the SADC Standing Aviation Committee on Support to Sister Countries in Times of Emergency. At the same time, the then Minister of Defense also communicated with the Zambian Minister of Defense regarding the need for support in the search and rescue. I'm aware the question might arise to say, why did we actually focus on Zambia? There are relations that actually exist between ourselves and our Zambian military counterparts. We took advantage of that, and we knew that they also had platforms or capabilities which could be utilized for the search. These engagements took place between 1400 and 1600 hours. The Zambian authorities responded positively and expressed readiness to support the search effort, subject to the necessary logistical arrangements for deployment into the search area. Due to the time these engagements took place, the Zambian Air Force informed the Minister of Defense of Malawi and the MDF that they would only present themselves for the task the following day in the morning. I want to actually omit part 12 and only come to the conclusion, because that part, I'm sorry. Sorry, Honorable Chair. I want to actually now jump to a conclusion. Why am I jumping to a conclusion and not be able to talk about what obtains after this this episode where we actually consulted the Zambian counterparts? If you look at the terms of reference, it's talking about me articulating issues that actually obtained on the 10th of June 2024. I think, Honorable Chair, Honorable Committee members of the Ad hoc Committee, I hope you are aware of reference. I then would want to make a conclusion to say as follows, or to mention as follows. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members of the committee, the events of 10 June 2024 remain among the most tragic and painful episodes in the history of the Malawi Defence Force and the nation at large. The loss of the Vice President, distinguished public servants, and dedicated military personnel was a national tragedy that profoundly affected all Malawians. Throughout the period preceding the flight, during the emergency response, and in the aftermath of the accident, the Malawi Defence Force acted in accordance with its constitutional mandate, established procedures, and operational responsibilities. Every effort was made to facilitate the requested travel, respond swiftly to the loss of contact, coordinate national and regional search efforts, and subsequently investigate the circumstances surrounding the accident. Until to date, I have had a heavy heart and sad feelings for all the families whose relations lost their lives during this tragedy. May the souls of all the departed continue to rest in peace. I wish to actually respectfully submit this statement in order to assist the committee come in its important work and remain available to provide any further clarification that the committee may require. Very respectfully submitted. And I want to actually mention myself, General Dr. Paul Valentino Piri, as the former chief of the Malawi Defence Force. Honorable Chair, honorable committee members of the Ad hoc Committee of the Inquiry, I submit and I rest my case. I thank you.
Mwanza Central, and then there's Kasena.
Thank you very much. The president of this country, the former president of this country, Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, was on TV on 10th of June when he was updating Malawians about the incident. And in his statement, he said he directed the commander of the MDF to give him updates every 4 hours. It's on record. He made that statement. And on page 4 in your statement, you're saying the former president directed that he be kept continuously updated regarding the progress of the search and response operations. I just want us to clear that element, because when you say continuously, are you saying that every 4 hour period, or continuously as we know what continuously mean? Just to be sure whether this statement is talking about the same statement the president made.
Thank you very much, Honorable from Mwanza Central, and it's a very good question. I think the 4-hour narration and the continuously maybe two terms which can be merged. And I think they are in line with maybe was the objective of informing the nation at large. So I would want to join to say the two should be considered as part of the continuously. Although when the president was maybe talking about it, he had truncated maybe the message.
Thank you very much.
Or apportioned actually the continuous into 4-hour portions of reporting times. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General. Just to be very specific, he's the one who gave you the direction. Was the direction that you give him an update every 4 hours?
Correct, honorable member of the committee.
Thank you very much. The other question, Chair, is on the statement that General made. You made a statement on TV that efforts to identify the site or the plane was being hampered by the thick forest. I just want to find out where you got this information from. Was it from the one who was commanding the officers at Shikangawa? Because in your statement you're saying by 1305 you had no idea. The plane has not been located, the signal has not been located. But you made a statement that ndege inaliko kwitima. So I just want to know where you got this information from.
I did not talk about that during this presentation. Can I recuse myself until I'm given an opportunity to explain where that transpired? If the committee is interested for me to answer, which will be out of context of the parameters of the terms of reference, I'm more than happy, but I should be given that permission. Because it's something that I have not talked about.
Chair, that's all from me. I had only those two questions.
General, I'm granting you permission to make this clarification because you made the statement.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Chair. I hope it's going to be off record because it's outside the terms of reference.
No, it's not off record because your summons strictly say that you must give us a testimony on events that occurred leading up to the 10th of June. And you have restricted yourself in your presentation to report all incidences and events that happened up to the 10th of June. And this happened, you made a statement on the 10th of June pertaining to this to this plane crash. So it can be off record. You have taken an oath here. Everything is being recorded. Every conversation is being recorded.
Thank you very much, Chair. There's a question actually that led to this. Number one question that came was, did you have troops in Chikangawa even before this episode of the plane crash? The answer was yes. I also want to actually take the committee to an understanding that I know Chikangawa from my experiences. I stayed in Mzuzu, the 3rd Battalion of Moyale, as a commanding officer. Over and above that, I've been training in those areas for quite a long time. But maybe to answer this question in a comprehensive manner, and exhaustively is to say this came from those that were on the ground. And this also came from the fact that those on the ground did not actually know where this aircraft had actually crashed or maybe landed at the time. And they came up with this statement and complimented my experiences that I had lived and my understanding of the nature of the ground in Chikangawa. So this came, yes, from those that were on the ground to say, Chikangawa is thick. And I want to actually refresh your minds, those that have been on the ground. If you actually come from the Ruawa side and going towards Chikangawa, as you transition or transit through that area, you'll find that it's thick. I hope and I'm reliably informed that the committee was able to visit the area. My question would be, what were your experiences? I think by now, vividly, you have that understanding that that particular portion of the area is thick. And this is where my statement came from when I was talking about the area being thick and using the term, the Chichewa literal term or literal meaning, Kotani, I use Kokwetima. Kokwetima meant Kowirira. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair.
There's Akasena and then Mulanje North.
Thank you so much, Chair. Good afternoon, General. I've noted that when Zomba Tondo was asking a question, I think he had asked you so that you able to understand each other. He had asked you in Chichewa, but you still responded in English. I'm not so sure whether which part of Unchinji that you don't know how to speak Chichewa, because I have some questions for Chichewa. I'm not so sure if you're going to be able to respond, or we should just go straight into English.
Your discretion, Your Honorable. I leave it to you.
All right. Before I go to the substantive questions, I will take you to when you're responding to 172 soldiers which were on the ground. Zomba City South had asked you if the number was good enough. And if I caught you well, you had said if they were deployed efficiently. You used that word, and I caught it. Now, I want to understand your opinion. When you got the response, we're getting the reports from the Brigadier Commander of 101 Brigade Commander, headquarters in Brigadier General Richard Shagona Panja. In your own opinion, 172 soldiers, were they efficiently deployed?
If you ask me, Honorable member of the committee, I want to say yes. It was 172, and I said they were complemented by the team that came from the Air Force, which actually made it.
Yes,
let the figure come to 200.
Yes, you said that, General. We are together, but I'm quoting what you said.
Yes.
Because Zomba City South had asked you, was the number good? Was it enough?
Yes.
And your answer was, if they were deployed efficiently. You used those words. Now, I want your opinion as a commander. 172 members, were they efficiently deployed? Quote in your own word.
Honorable member, if you ask me, I would say yes. I trusted my soldiers.
Why did you say if? Why would your response come with a condition of if?
Were they good enough? I said yes, if they were deployed efficiently. So you were asking me, were they? So I'm saying yes, they were.
Let's go to page 3 of your presentation. The morning of 2024, you were in a meeting, and then I just wanted to confirm that you said when you had a conversation with Air Force commander in your office, he had sick leave to go to his base to follow up on the missing flights, and then you had later on convened. You proceeded rather convened to convene a meeting of Malawi Force High Command at your Joint Force headquarters, where you had informed them of the development. Mind to share with the committee as who was in this meeting and what were the action points in this meeting where you are informing your Defense Force High Command?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I mentioned, during the course of my presentation, to say those who were in the meeting, who formed the High Command, were, apart from me, were at the time Lieutenant General Jafu, now the commander, the commander or the chief of the Defense Force, and Major General Saiford Kalisha, who was the chief of staff. The action points basically was to narrate to them to say, I'm being informed that the aircraft that was carrying the vice president, supposedly to go to Mzuzu, had not landed at its destination, and the signal at the time was missing. And as such, what we are trying to do is to locate where it is, because by that time we had not yet established whether it had crash landed. The thinking was that maybe it had diverted to some location. That is why we went to the extent of searching for the aircraft within the aerodromes in Malawi, and also outside in Zambia, Tanzania, and Mozambique. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you so much, General. You had a number of updates with the President and another meeting with the President as a Commander-in-Chief, which was convened at State House with a number of people you have mentioned in your presentation, page 4. Before I go into the questioning of that, do you remember at what point did the President update the nation? The first update of the President?
I'm not aware of that, but I briefed the President, and I know at some point he came on the radio and briefed the nation. At the time, I'm not aware.
You're not aware at the time the President made that admission? If I say the President spoke at 11 o'clock, you agree with me?
It will be.
No, because you were the man at the center of it. The thing which was missing was yours. You were supposed to have a time as to, if you remember what time the President, because if I remember, the President addressed the nation in the evening after a number of meetings.
Yes, so if the President came up, certainly I think it might have been after he had collected enough information and confirming that that was the situation which was obtaining at the particular time.
I'm asking you, Chair, because I want you to understand, on page 5, progress report from the Malawi Air Force, where you are saying aircraft was approximately 20 nautical miles north of Mzuzu at around 10-12 hours. That kind of communication. You are the one who had briefed the President that at 10-12 the flight was somewhere around 20 nautical miles north of Mzuzu. That was before the presidential update, is it?
Correct. Correct. That we had received this information from the tower in Mzuzu. And this can also be substantiated or reinforced by the tower in Mzuzu, that this interaction took place.
This update came before you had seek the service providers to locate the phone numbers, which you are saying on the same page that at 15 hours, that's the time some numbers of the passengers were detected within 20 kilometers of the tower, within radius of Chikangawa. Can you confirm? You can use your mic.
Correct, I can confirm. This was information which actually came from the ATC, and this is also information that is coming from the service mobile telephone operators, the service providers coming up with this information to say they had located a signal after they were given the numbers of those that were on board the aircraft.
In the same briefing which you talked about the thick forest in the Yuanchinji vernacular language of Yokwitima, that was the morning of 11 June 2024 when you're giving an update with the then Minister of Information. There was a mention of black box during that press conference. I followed it. Are you able to speak about it?
Honorable Member, MTF aircraft do not carry black box. Do not carry black boxes. I must be very honest. If that maybe was mentioned, it must have been, I don't know. But I don't think so. And I'll mention to the committee to say MDF, all the aircraft in MDF do not have black boxes. It is only one, which is the Super Puma, which was being used by the first president of the country. And it's a Super Puma. Even if we actually move as a team to Zomba, we will not find any black box in any of the aircraft, both in Zomba as fixed wing and here at Lilongwe Air Base as a rota wing.
Okay. Can you confirm in your presentation you're also talking about that at the time of this incident, you are the first force, you had only one serviceable air platform which could have been used? I'm quoting in your 11 chair on his 11 parade number 11 on regional support. Is it true?
Very, very correct.
So you had an air force with only one serviceable?
Correct.
There, that's the chair. You were saying you had contacted Zambian Air Force to help on logistic readiness and search efforts. So I want you to confirm to this committee that you had contacted the Zambian Air Force for what? Specifically, can you tell us what was the sole purpose you had contacted the Zambian Air Force?
This generally, I think from this is not me contacting the Zambian Air Force. No, I mentioned two people, the Air Force commander to actually contact his counterpart in Zambia, based on the Standing Aviation Committee's protocol, which talks about assisting sister countries during emergencies. Noting that we are friendly, or we are friends, and also the Minister of Defense at the time contacting his counterpart, Minister of Defense. So these two are the ones that contacted the Zambian counterparts.
But okay, fine, thank you. You were saying they responded positively to help the search effort, but they needed the necessary logistical arrangements for development for deployment into search area. Can you help us this necessary logistical arrangement? Who was to make these arrangements? Was it Malay Defense Force, Malay government, or Zambian counterpart?
Thank you very much. It was the Malawi government on behalf of the MDF because they wanted to come, but they said they wanted to be assisted with fuel and accommodation for the pilots or the crew that were coming with the platforms.
So you're saying they only presented themselves in the following day of the
Correct,
morning?
because the discussion took place in the evening and they could not make themselves ready because also there were bureaucracies that were supposed to be respected within their hierarchy of command. Certainly those preparations would take long, and with that they promised, or they made sure that they could only arrive in Malawi the next day.
In your veracity as a commander of the then commander of Malay Defense Force, what's your general feeling on the preparedness of the Defense Force in terms of emergency? I submit, Chair. That'll be my last one.
Thank you very much. That's a very good one. At the time, in terms of preparedness, I think the Mao Defense Force, in terms of air assets, were actually below the accepted level of preparedness, because we didn't have support. I don't see a friendly face which I could have referred to from the previous cohort of the members of parliament who were answering to the Defense and Oversight Committee of Security, that several times concerns were actually advanced to say we need actually to upgrade our aircraft, and over and above that also procure new equipment in terms of aircraft itself, and also supporting accessories or ancillary gear. But maybe due to issues of financial constraints, then these were never provided to the Defense Force. So if you ask me, I want to say yes, I think the level of preparedness at the time was very low. But that does not actually, that does not give us a leeway to say when we were actually launching the flight, we did not actually respond to the particularities or the particulars that are required to certify an aircraft to actually fly. So we could fly, yes, but level of preparedness on the part of supporting such platforms during excursions was actually limited. I thank you, the member of the committee.
A point of order, Chair.
Yes.
Yes.
Chair, General here, when he was responding to the question from Honorable Member from Katterberg, yes? He said after the press briefing, how do members know that I had a conversation with the Honorable Minister behind the scenes? What if I told him that the information that you provided is wrong? Because I could not do that in front of the cameras. I thought maybe, Chair, we needed to know whether indeed that conversation was there behind the scenes. Thank you.
Can you maybe just clarify that matter? This is an issue pertaining to the black box.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I said maybe I addressed that, but to me, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't hear that part. Or I knew MDF aircrafts do not have black boxes. Wherever, if it was mentioned, which I did not hear, and I want to mention to this, I did not hear. If it was reported, well and good, that was him. But MDF aircrafts do not have black boxes. And we can as a team move today to Zomba, to the air base, and the information that we'll find, even if we surprise them or ambush them, that will be the material evidence that we'll find on the ground. Aircrafts will not have black boxes. If he mentioned that, maybe he mentioned it maybe with excitement, or maybe he was zealous with maybe trying to articulate issues. But as for me, certainly that would not have come from my mouth. And I think I didn't do that. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
No, that's fair. I think we'll have an opportunity to interface with the former Minister of Information. So we'll seek further clarification at that time. But you have done your best to explain issues. And I think the public is much aware now about the status of military aircrafts and existence or non-existence of black box. Before, it was a gray area, but now it's now common knowledge. Having gone this far, General, I would like to appreciate you for your stamina. Your endurance during this session has been commendable. You've given us much attention, and I'm sure there will be another interaction because your report was not complete. We'll discuss with the Secretary on how we can close this small bit, but you've pretty much said everything. So you were the Commander-in-Chief, so you will appreciate why members were trying to get as much information as possible because you were directly responsible. And having said all this, General, a lot of things went wrong. I'm sure you agree. I don't have to take stock of what went wrong. And I wonder why, when this happened, you didn't resign. Is there any specific reason why you didn't resign?
Madam Chair, that's a very interesting, maybe direction of the consultation. I'm not sure. Maybe from your audit. How do you arrive or make somebody resign for certain things which somebody is thinking is going on right? Should I assume that by now you have come to a conclusion to say everything was wrong, then the commander should have resigned? Should I posit that kind of question? You should say everything, even what I've mentioned, amounts to a scenario where I should have resigned.
General, I want to respond. So the reason being is that you were responsible as an army commander. Yes. You were accountable. Yes. All right? And members are bringing issue of accountability to you. Certainly there was a lot of failures that we have all pointed out. I don't have to list them. The list is endless. The EOT was not functional. The aircraft was not a VVIP aircraft. It was an ambulance. The search and rescue, you might have done some preliminary work, but it was delayed. Disorganized. It's a fact. Everybody knows Malawans are not happy the way the search and rescue was conducted. It's common knowledge, you know. Adverse weather conditions were ignored and the flight proceeded. You may not have been the pilot, but you approved the flight. And I'm just stating the facts as they are, that a lot of things went wrong. If things did not go wrong, that plane would not have crashed. Wouldn't have crashed. So I'm only stating it, and I want you to justify. This is a fair question. I want you to justify whether you resigning or was the right decision or not. And you have a right to defend yourself.
Point of order, Chair. Chair, point of order.
Chair, I have problems with the line of questioning that you have taken and the conclusions that you are making, because I think they need us at the end of everything to make that conclusion that things were wrong. So, Chair, I feel like you should excuse us so that we discuss this not in camera, because I feel like we cannot be making conclusions of that nature at this point. Thank you, Chair.
This is my opinion. Everybody has been asking their opinion.
But you had said the committee, everyone is saying that. So I think I would join Longemode that if we are to take that road that every witness we should give our opinion in place of the witness and make our judgment, then we are going astray. The Zagasina is not going to be in agreement with that kind of. I think this is why police is arresting witnesses before we finish the inquiry.
No.
Because of that kind of statement.
He has a right to defend himself now or not. And I've asked him, he has to defend himself. Was it justifiable for him to continue working or resign? Is it up to him to answer that question? It's a fair question, straightforward question. You can come and defend him, but let him answer.
Okay. Thank you very much. and I will defend myself in this manner. I think I was invited or summoned to present my side of the story. And I think I've given a fair side of a narrative that actually obtained on that particular day. And in this is coming from a list where the story started, okay? there is actually somebody reporting to me the aircraft is missing or has not landed wherever it's supposed to land. From there, I'm saying thank you very much. If that is the case, let's find out where it is. And I'm directing you as somebody who is responsible for overseeing or the oversight of running that institution to actually find out where this aircraft is. Then I'm coming out with the same to say, where did this begin? It was a request that came from a VVIP person, the second highest position person in the country, a vice president. Requests an asset from the MDF. Then along the way, this asset does not actually arrive or take him where he's supposed to go. I'm able to actually narrate how that was actually transacted or reacted to. I'm also talking about the consultations which I did to the various members and responding to actually the procedure that should obtain should a scenario or a situation of that manner transpire. I further go ahead to look at maybe the meetings that I had with the powers that be at the time, so that I could update them. Then we could also look at the preliminary measures that would amount to a preliminary search. Then from there, we actually transition to a physical search on the ground. Certainly, if these are the activities of somebody who is working to actually come out with a status or an outlook where the approach is result oriented, I'm not sure whether this committee would come and discount or actually smear that person to say maybe you were failing to do your job. Maybe the best thing that was going to happen was for me from the onset to simply say, I understand everything went wrong. As far as I'm concerned, I have been able to clearly advance my position. And I like your aggressiveness, Honorable Chairperson. That actually gives me the stimulus actually to respond, to say, no, I could not. I was doing my job and I think I was doing it right. This is why I'm able to articulate the issues from the start to the finish. If along the way I was not able to address anything, then certainly I was not going to provide the answers which I've provided to the committee. So I would say kudos up for you for actually stimulating me to react in this manner. Honorable Chair, I was working and I could not resign. In a football match, you have been actually you have been actually scored maybe 3 goals. Just simply say we are abandoning the match? No. My defense would actually come from this factual data that actually have actually complemented my narration of anything and everything that actually transpired from when the vice president made the request that he should actually fly to Mzuzu. Then whatever action actually obtained was by reaction. If that merits or disqualifies me to be a competent person, I want to say I'm refusing. I was one of the most competent generals in this land. Number one, my education, high standard. And it was not done in this country. Number two, if you look at my professional qualifications, you want to actually, if you check what I did and how I merited, they were all superb. I want to defend myself in that manner, which means delivery on the ground can be matched to what I achieved. Level of proficiency in that manner, and I think even this committee is convinced the general was able to respond appropriately. I never actually recused myself from any question that came from you honorable members. I think this is enough for my defense and defending myself. I want to stop there, Chair, congratulate you for actually stimulating me to respond in this manner. I submit and I thank you.
I appreciate, Jenna. There's certain things you didn't say outright, but they've come up that I've provoked you. And I appreciate your reasons, the mitigating circumstances you have explained. And, so I just wanted to hear it from you. And not enough for me, but for the sake of everybody else. So this should mark the end, Jenna, of our engagement with you. You may have any final words to say.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. My final words is simply to congratulate the committee and also to thank government for considering to come back and take maybe a relook at what transpired and come up with a re-inquiry or a third or fourth inquiry on the same. So I think it's a job well done. And it's always good also to actually exhaust what actually transpired and for certain things to have happened. And be able to understand maybe what went wrong and also what went on right. That's the way how things can be improved. If that is not done, certain things cannot improve. My understanding is whatever was summoned or were the items that were given as summons to me were the terms of reference for me. And certainly I was supposed to respond within the confines of those items. This, I think, has been a good thing. Mostly, I know there's certain information that you did not know, or members of the committee did not know. And through this interaction, you are now in the know. I hope that to contribute enormously to you coming up with a position of what actually transpired. I think not all is lost. MDF will still continue being there, and I think it will strive to be a very good organization. It has always been, and I think it will contribute. And I hope it will continue contributing positively to the development of the country and also responding to anything that comes negatively that actually affects the efficient and proficient running of the country. In terms of threats that can come maybe as natural or maybe artificial, those I want really to list as things we should actually ride upon and do better. But also to request as members of parliament that when certain institutions of importance like the MDF, which are responsible for the security of the state, they should be actually listened to and considered. It should not just be, no, I think there are other priorities. I know priorities are set by looking at maybe the magnitude of the problems. But I think if you overlook defense or security, then certainly you are losing yourself. You cannot stay in a house, or you cannot call a house without a roof. It's not complete. So understand me from that perspective. If the MDF is not properly resourced, it will not give you the best. So please help the MDF to be resourced properly so that it can be able to undertake its functions properly. And so that also the nation can be defended appropriately. Assets that belong to the MDF or that are used or utilized or that are attached to the MDF are for the nation and not for the MDF as such. It's for the nation to utilize. So let's take care of the MDF so that they take care of the assets that they are given for them to be able to actually service the day-to-day requirements, good or bad, that the nation encounters. I want to stop there, but I want to thank you for the interaction that should I say, intensive interaction that I've had with the committee. And also the parting shot that came from the chair of the committee. The chair and everybody else belonging to the committee, I want to thank you. And I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, General. You may take leave.
Thank you.
Thank you.